Hey everyone, welcome to the Middle School Visual Arts PLC group. My name is Alicia Montgomery and I'm the moderator for this group. I'm so glad that you joined this community. It was created with you in mind. Our goal is to collaborate and support each other as we navigate the craziness of teaching middle school visual arts. Whether you are the only one in your system or one of many, we know that you will find things here to help you. In order to make this as beneficial as possible, for everyone, be sure to set up your notifications and check back often to see posts, discussions, and support that will be showcased. Please engage in discussions and offer up any support or questions that you may have. Also, share this platform with your friends and colleagues. Our topic for today is going to be assessment. We're going to focus mainly on diagnostic assessments, and I'm going to show you the bedroom design project that we do in my classroom and how we can use those assessments in that project. So first we need to talk about the three types of assessments and what those are and what each of those looks like. In this episode we're going to focus mainly on diagnostic assessments, and in the next episode we'll focus on the summative and formative assessments that go with that project. So first, what is a diagnostic assessment? A diagnostic assessment is a form of pre-assessment where we as teachers can evaluate students' strengths, their weaknesses, their knowledge, and their skills before we give them any instruction. So why do we do these types of instruction? These assessments allow us as educators and instructors to adjust our curriculum to meet the needs of current and future students. This also helps fulfill our TEKS standards, which we'll talk about in a little bit later. The second type of assessment is formative assessments. Formative assessments refer to a wide variety of methods that teachers use to conduct in-process evaluations of student comprehension, learning needs, and academic process during a lesson, a unit, or a course. Formative assessments are for learning. They help with students' learning and help to make sure that we know that they are learning the content that we expect them to learn. The third type of assessment is summative assessments. Summative assessments are critical in art education, and they can be defined as an assessment of student learning that occurs at the end of some period of instruction. Summative assessment is proof of that learning. TEKS are the standards that we as educators are evaluated on by our administration. The two standards that deal with assessment are number 5 and number 6. TEKS standard number 5 deals with assessment strategies. So that says that we will use a variety of diagnostic, formative, and summative strategies, and we will use those as valid and appropriate for the content in our student population. TEKS standard number 6 deals with assessment uses, and it says that we as teachers will systematically gather, analyze, and use the data that we find from these different assessments to measure our student progress, to inform our instructional content, to see if we need to reteach, how we deliver, how our delivery methods are working. Do we need to change those? Do we need to reevaluate them, or are they working well? And to provide timely and constructive feedback to both students and our parents. So making sure that we have a variety of these tools in our toolbox helps us as teachers not only to be better teachers, but to make sure that we're meeting those standards of evaluation for ourselves as well. So some examples of diagnostic assessments are a pretest, so just a traditional pen and paper test where you may ask them about vocabulary terms that you need to know if they know, or you may ask them about different elements of principles of art, or basic vocabulary relating to those things. Or it could be a skills assessment for us as visual arts educators. It could be students demonstrating their cutting skills or some type of drawing skills. In middle school visual arts, it may be seeing if they have what kind of color pencil techniques they know how to do. Do they know how to blend? Do they know how to color it in solid? Do they know how to burnish? All those things. Do they know what shading skills do they have? Do they know how to mix colors? Do they know what colors to mix to make different colors? So all of those things could be diagnostic tools that you could use in your classroom as a visual arts educator. So a diagnostic assessment, remember, is just a form of pre-assessment where we can evaluate the strengths, weaknesses, and knowledge. So any of these assessments or any others that you can think of that do those things that allow you to adjust your curriculum to meet the needs of your current and future students will benefit your students, it will benefit your teaching, and it will also fulfill those TEKS standards. So the Georgia Department of Education platform has wonderful resources that include all different types of assessments. So I'm going to show you just very quickly how to get to that platform if you're not familiar with it, and then we'll talk more about how we can use those.
The Georgia Department of Education has worked with fine arts teachers from across the state to create over 3,000 instructional resources available for teachers in the classroom. These resources are housed in what's known as the TRL, or the Teacher Resource Link. Now, if you're a Georgia teacher, you can access the TRL through the Statewide Longitudinal Data System, or SLDS. This is typically found in the same location as the TEKS, or Teacher Key Effectiveness System. For many school systems, this will be the same platform where you would find grading and attendance, such as Infinite Canvas, eSchool Plus, etc. There is another way to access the TRL. Two, in fact. The first is to go to georgiastandards.org. The other, and the suggested way, is to go to the Georgia Department of Education's Fine Arts webpage. Here, we have all 3,000 of the resources organized by topic area. So that includes dance, media arts, music, theater and film, and visual arts. Within that framework, the resources are broken down by course name. So if you click on the green frameworks link in one of the given discipline areas, you will download a Word document that has all of the hyperlinks for every resource associated with that class. The individual resource hyperlinks are then organized in an outline fashion by course, unit, lesson plan, and supplemental resources. All of the resources are intended as supplemental frameworks that can provide additional support or ideas for new and veteran teachers alike. The curriculum map contains a list of all the standards and elements for each unit, and the key concepts that are typically covered in that particular unit. For each of these units, there is a unit plan. All unit plans include a unit focus, Georgia Standards of Excellence associated with the unit, and a list of all the lesson plans that are contained in the unit, and example assessments, as well as a list of additional resources that either exist in the TRL or as URL links on the web. The lesson plans also have a uniform structure. For every lesson plan, there is a suggested pacing guide, Enduring Understanding, which connects the lesson to non-arts related fields, as well as a technical focus, which describes what the lesson plan is about. Below the technical focus, all of the Georgia Standards of Excellence covered in the lesson are listed, followed by a complete list of diagnostic, formative, and summative assessments associated with the lesson. The assessments are followed by a list of necessary foundational information, the lesson plan's major concepts and vocabulary, as well as online links that are related to the activities of the lesson. This is followed by differentiated learning, which includes suggestions for increased rigor for enhanced learning opportunities, as well as instructions for adapted assignments. The lesson plan then includes teacher and student materials, followed by detailed lesson steps, which are usually done in a 4-part structure, including a hook, teacher-led discussions, student activities, and some form of closing, where the activity is discussed. For each lesson plan in the TRL, there is included a diagnostic, formative, and summative assessment. Many of these assessments include quizzes, questionnaires, standard-based rubrics for the assignments that are outlined in the lesson plan. Beyond the curriculum map, the unit plan, and the lesson plans, there are also other resources. Every unit has at least one extended PowerPoint that contains terms, definitions, pictures, and examples related to the skills associated with the unit. There are also handouts for teachers and students, worksheets, videos, audio clips, and vocabulary lists. Each of these resources include Georgia artists to make sure that Georgia artists are represented in front of the students, so that the students understand Working for the arts is a viable career path in the state of Georgia. For additional questions, please contact the Fine Arts team.
Some examples from the Georgia Department of Education of diagnostic assessments are listed here. So you could use a reflection of famous artworks where the students show their understanding and developing critique skills. Students evaluate their success based on how well they can talk about the elements and principles of art and how they use them in the construction of their artwork, or what visual interest do they see in the artwork that they're looking at, what kind of craftsmanship do they see in that artwork. Another way they could do that is to generate a series of sketches for their project, right, which is what I used in the bedroom design project to kind of help demonstrate their understanding of the objectives for the project and any possibility or limitations of the media that they're using. So they may do some tests of the media that they're using to see how it works, see what they can do with it, to see what they can't do, or maybe talk about how they're going to figure out what they're going to do with it. Another way is with criticism of exemplars from the projects, and these can be either student generated or teacher generated, or some images that you find either online or images, maybe posters that you have, and that helps them see what their finished product could look like. And it helps them determine, okay, why is this a good exemplar? And so I show them exemplars that range from emerging all the way to advanced. So that way they can help formulate the criteria and see why that's there, see why they are being judged or graded on that particular example, or that particular criteria rather, for success based on those different parts. So in my classroom, I do a little bit of diagnostic assessment, a lot of formative assessment, and a little bit of summative assessment. So I evaluate their daily work, the process that they're using, their behavior, and then their final projects. So in my classroom, I spend the first day or the first few days, depending on what we're working on, doing some type of diagnostic assessment. In this presentation, I'm going to discuss and focus on diagnostic assessments for my 1-point bedroom design project and how we use those in my classroom. So this is just an example of their summative final project. So for diagnostic assessment, I just ask them to draw in their sketchbook their bedroom or a bedroom. And so we haven't talked about anything at this point. I just tell them that we're doing a bedroom drawing. And that's kind of their warm up for that day of class. So when they come in, they get their sketchbooks out, and that's the first thing they do. So these are just 3 examples of some of my students' drawings from this term when I ask them to draw their bedroom. So here's another one. This one has some idea that there should be some kind of linear perspective or space going on there. This one has lots of details, but they don't have the spatial relationships there as much as the last one that we looked at. So I know that with some of my students, I really, really need to focus on the craftsmanship part of things. Right? Some of them I need to focus on the linear perspective part, and then some of my students I may can just give some beginning instructions and kind of let them go ahead of the rest of the class. And that helps with your differentiation as well. Right, so this is going to be my demonstration that I use with my students for this project as well.
All right, so the first step in drawing your bedroom design is to draw a rectangle. And we're going to draw a rectangle so that it doesn't fill up the whole page, because you've got to leave room for your ceiling and your floor and your sidewalls. So one of the tips you want to make sure that you do is line your ruler up with the edge of your paper so that your lines are nice and horizontal or vertical. We don't want your ruler to be like this or way back here or way up here. Okay, you want to make sure that it's lined up with the edge of your paper. All right, leave a little space at the top for your ceiling. I'll leave a little space at the bottom for your floor and your bed and things like that. Line your ruler up with the edge of your paper and draw your vertical lines for the side walls. So these are going to be where your walls meet each other or meet the floor or the ceiling. So it looks like that. Now, because this is 1-point linear perspective, we've got to draw a little vanishing point. Remember, your vanishing point is just a little dot. Doesn't need to be very big, like the size of a period. Then we're going to draw where our wall meets our ceiling. So we're going to line this up with the corner of your rectangle and draw a line from there to the edge of your paper. It may or may not line up with the corner. If it doesn't line up with the corner, that's fine. You just make sure it's lined up with your vanishing point. You're going to do that on all 4 corners. Okay, so then wall, floor, ceiling, and then this is the wall that you're looking at. Remember, your vanishing point is like your eye level. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to draw a window. I'm going to draw mine on this side. Think about where your windows are in real life. You don't want your window to go all the way to the top of the wall. Got to have something to hold it in. So I'm just going to pick a place for the top of my window to be. Line that up with my vanishing point, and I'm just going to draw where I want my window. Okay, decide how tall you want it. It could be here or here. It's up to you. Line that up with your vanishing point. Draw where you want it to be. Then line your ruler up with the top of your paper. You're going to draw in between those 2 lines. The same thing on the other side, however wide you want it to be. All right, if you want to add the individual panes on the inside, you use the same technique. So I would line this up with the top of my paper, draw down the center, we'll find the middle here, and line that up with my vanishing point. So there's my window, and I can erase any little extra tails that we have around. Right, the next thing that we're going to do is our dresser. The corner of your dresser has to be where your floor and your wall meet. So it has to be on this line. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to line my ruler up with the edge of my paper, right up here at the top. I'm going to draw a vertical line for the side of my dresser. You decide how tall you want it. Line it up with the side of my paper and draw my dresser the width that I would like for it to be. Then I'm going to draw lines lightly because you're going to have to erase part of this from my dresser to my vanishing point, from this corner to here and this corner to here. I don't have to do this one because it would go through itself. So I'm going to line that corner up with my vanishing point. Draw a line all the way. Remember to draw lightly so when you erase it doesn't show. All the way. And from that corner all the way. Then I'm going to line my ruler up and we're going to draw the back of your dresser. Now the back of your dresser needs to have a right angle just like this, so it's 90-degree angle. Cannot start your dresser further down this line than where your wall is. So we can't go past this line. So I'm going to start mine just a little bit before the wall. Draw from this line to that line. So this will be the front of my dresser. I'll line it up on the side of my paper and I'm going to draw from this line to the other line. Then I can erase these inside lines. So we don't need those anymore. We don't have a ghost dresser, so it's not see-through. Okay, and then erase these extra guidelines that we don't need anymore. Do not erase your vanishing point. You will need it again in a little bit. So there's my dresser. Right, this is the side, the front, and the top. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add drawers to our dresser. So just like with your window, decide where you want the top to be. line that up with your vanishing point, draw a line across. Pick where you want the bottom to be, line it up with your vanishing point, draw a line across. Okay. Go ahead and draw your lines for however many dresser drawers you're going to have. I'm going to have 2 on this one. So it'll look like this. I'm going to line my ruler up with the edge of my paper, and I'm going to draw the sides of my dresser at the same time. So that way they line up even. Okay, and then you can erase any little tails that are left hanging out. All right, and then if you wanted to add some little drawer pulls or knobs, you could do that. You could design these however you want to. Right, the next thing that we're going to add is a bed. And one of the things you got to think about when your bed is you don't want your headboard to be too high or your bed's going to look like it's floating. Right, so I'm going to make my bed over here on this side. So I'm going to start about a finger width from the bottom of my floor. So I'm going to line this up with the side of my paper. I'm going to draw a rectangle, making sure to line my ruler up with the edges of my paper. Let me straighten that up a little bit. All right, then we're going to line the vanishing point up with the corner of your bed. Just follow these instructions really carefully because it's going to look funny to you till we get done. So I'm going to draw this all the way across the edge of my paper. I'm going to erase some of it later. We'll line this corner up with my vanishing point. Draw all the way to the edge. All right, then I'm going to decide this is going to be the top of my bed where you lay. So I'm going to line my ruler up with the side of my paper. You decide kind of how far down you want it to go. I'm going to draw a line from there either to this other line, or if it runs off the page, that's okay also. Then I'm going to erase this inside part. I'm going to erase this extra guideline. We don't need it anymore. Right, then I'm going to draw the side of my bed. So I'm going to line this up with the edge of my paper. Draw a line just above your floor line. And then I'm going to line this up with my vanishing point. Draw a line all the way across. All right, then we've got to draw a rectangle for the foot of our bed, and that rectangle is going to start here. So I'm going to line this up with the end of my paper, and I'm going to draw from here to there. I can erase this because I don't need it anymore, and this inside part. So this is the side of my bed. Right, I'm going to draw the foot of my bed by drawing that rectangle we just talked about. It's going to go all the way across. And then mine is really close to the edge of my paper. If yours runs off the page, that's okay. Erase those little tails. Make this not see-through. So there's my bed, and then I just need to add some little feet. So I'm just going to have half a foot here. Have a foot on this side, and those don't have to line up with your vanishing point. Okay. So there's my bed. Now to do your flooring has to line up with your vanishing point too. Okay, if you want to do a rug that's just an oval rug, you would draw it just like you normally do, just an oval. Mine kind of goes up under the edge of my bed. If you want to do a rectangular bed, it has to line up with your vanishing point too. So let's say I'm going to have my rug in front of my bed. I'll line this up with the vanishing point. Draw my rug wherever I want it to be. Line my ruler up with the side of my page. Draw it the width that I want it. Line that end up with my vanishing point. Line it up with the side of my paper and draw the other side. So there's my rug. Now for our floor, I usually recommend to my students to use the inch side for their practice one, just so it's big enough you have room. Okay, when you start your final one, you probably want these to be a little bit closer together. So we talk about finding your zero line, which is the end of your ruler. Okay, sometimes it'll have zero here. These particular rulers do not. And you want to make sure that you're on the side that says inch. So I'm going to line that zero line up with the edge of my paper. And then where my inch marks are, so like this is 1, 2, I'm just going to make a little mark all the way across for each inch. And that helps keep it even so it looks really nice and neat. It helps with your craftsmanship. Right, then I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to line each of those marks up with my vanishing point, and I'm going to draw from the edge until I run into something. So in this case, it's my bed. So I'm going to draw from the edge till I run into something. From the edge till I run into something. Now when I get over here to where my rug is, I'm going to draw from the edge till I run into something, but then I've got to finish out the other side on the other side of my rug. Okay, so you'll skip over anything that might be in the way. So line it up with the vanishing point, and notice how now that I'm underneath my vanishing point, it's almost vertical. These slanted to the right, right? And then these are going to slant to the left. So don't let that throw you off. So I'm going to line this up with my vanishing point. So there's all of those. Now, when you get done, you need to look for things like, hey, this space is really a lot wider than these are. Because the corner of my room is up here, I actually have a little more space that I could have measured out this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come back and draw a line that's about the same width in between those. Okay. Same thing on this side. Draw one that's about the same width right in between those. Okay. Now, when you are laying hardwood floors, they do not make one plank that goes across the whole length of the floor. So they butt up against each other. So we have to draw those lines as well to make it look like hardwood. So I'm going to line this up with the side of the paper, and I'm just going to kind of come through and a little randomly add some horizontal lines. Now you've got to make sure that they are truly horizontal, so you've got to make sure it lines up with the edge of your page. If you don't, your floor is going to look like it's tilted or that it's warped, and you don't want to have that effect. In your drawings. Okay. Then once you get to this point, you can add any extra details that you want. Right? Things that are on the back wall would be rectangular. They're that shape. You don't have to line those up with the vanishing point. So for example, if I wanted a door back here, line it up with the edge of your paper. Think about your relationship between parts. So you want to make sure that it's tall enough for a person to actually go through and not short like your bed. So there's my doorway. You could add a frame around it if you wanted to. If you want your door to look like it's open, you can line your ruler up with the corner of your page. Just like that. And then I could add my little doorknob here. If you want to extend your floor out here, you can. You do need to have a floor wall line. So I might draw a line here. And then my flooring would continue out this way. And then you could add your little horizontal lines like we did before. Okay. If you want to add posters or a mirror or a TV, okay, it would be just like drawing your window. So if I wanted to add a TV here, I would line it up with my vanishing point, decide whatever height I want it to be. So just like you did with your window. Now, if you're just going to have a poster, you would just draw whatever's on your poster here. If it's going to be a TV, TVs, are, even though they're called flat screens, are not paper thin. So we do want to draw so that it has a little bit of thickness on the end, just like that. Okay, you could add a poster here, need some lights. So the thing that you need to have on your final drawing is you need to have a bed, a window, of course, all your walls and your floor and your ceiling, a dresser, lots of extra details, not just the one or two that I drew, and a light. It could be a light on your ceiling, it could be LED lights, it can be a lamp, it can be a floor lamp. You just have to have a light of some kind. Right, so once you finished your sketch, let me know. I'll check those, and then I'll give you your paper for your final one. Right, remember, it'll be a lot bigger. It's going to be 12-inch by 18-inch paper. Right. Questions?
Thank you for joining us. Please take a few minutes to participate in the discussion question, and I can't wait to hear all of your wonderful ideas and share some of my own. Be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on any updates or posts or discussions or any of the fun. All right, don't forget to join me for our next episode because we're going to talk a little bit more about this project and how I summatively and formatively assess my students as they're working through this project and on their final project. See you then.